Merhabalar herkese. TR Scout'un YouTube kanalına hepiniz hoş geldiniz. Ben Senior Chef Scout'lardan Ali Can Kutlu ve bugün yanımda çok özel ve güzel bir konuğum var. Kendisi Fenerbahçe'nin ve Türk futbol kamuoyunun yakından tanıdığı, yakından takip ettiği isimlerden. Isak Vural'ı belki de ilk izlemiş isimlerden. Hammarby kulübünün Şef Scout'u ile birlikteyiz. Sevgili Mikael Hjelmberg bizlerle. Bu noktadan itibaren röportajımızı İngilizce gerçekleştireceğimiz için Türkçe altyazıları açabilirsiniz. Mr. Hjelmberg, welcome. Thanks for accepting our inquiry.
Thank you so much.
Without further ado, I just want to kick off the questions immediately. Obviously, Isak is a very popular player nowadays in Turkey because of his CV. Obviously, him being born in Sweden and playing for your club, Hammarby. I just want to ask the initial question. When was the first time you've seen him play, and what were your initial thoughts on him?
I saw him play a friendly game at our training ground. I think it was back in 2010, 2011 or something. He was really young back then, and I noticed him directly from the stands. He was all over the pitch. Honestly, I don't think I've never seen a player dominating a game as he did in that game at that age. Because yeah, I think he was like 10 or 11 years old, and such an amazing talented player.
Mm-hmm. And it isn't obviously his CV also speaks to himself. It was your club first who he was playing for, and then he obviously had visits in Benfica and Barcelona, if I'm not mistaken. And then he is in Turkey now. And as you said, he is. Before we started the interview, he is just 15. He was born in 2006, so he's a very young player. But considering the fact that he was standing out when you were watching him for the first time, what would you say his general overview is, his skill set, strengths and weaknesses?
To be honest, I watched some players in that age, and it's quite easy to see which kind of skills the players have and also which kind of weaknesses they have. Mm-hmm. In the case of Isak, it was really, really hard to find any weaknesses in his game. Mm-hmm. Back then, he was obviously quite short, but you know, his technique, his decision making, his vision on the ball, his vision off the ball in terms of attacking play, mm-hmm. Was amazing. His passing was brilliant. You know, he could control the ball. He basically had it all. He also worked kind of hard in mm-hmm. defense. Were really good in putting people under pressure, covering the right spaces, which is, for me, it's really rare to see that in such a young age.
Yeah, and would you also say that, considering his age, because the recent pictures in Turkey, it was a topic of discussion that when he was introduced to his team, and I mean not the under-19 team, but he was having an initial training with the professional team of Fenerbahce, he looked his physique did not look like he was necessarily 15 years old. He looked a bit better now. Would you say that in general now his physique being now a bit stronger, helps him obviously with his skill set? But do you think, he's still, or not still, but he is going strong with the physique, and his strength is going to help him on the pitch, right? That's the basic question I would ask. Yeah.
I mean, of course. I mean, his body shape has always been good, even mm-hmm. if he was short in a young age. But you can definitely see that he had a strong body, good body control, and good. He had like a good body to build muscles, to develop it even more. And obviously now he has been growing, and his mm-hmm. body is his muscles are at the right places, and he has a really good football body, I would say.
Yeah, and obviously this is an information that we can only probably get from you, is we can all maybe watch him, see him how he plays, and maybe build an impression by ourselves, but his personality and his off-pitch personality is something that only, the people in the club can share with us, and having you with us can maybe help us out with that too. Do you remember how he was off the pitch? Any memories that sticks out to you?
I had a short talk with Isak back then, a long time ago, but I still remember him was a really humble guy, both feet on earth, and humble guy, but you could see in his eyes, this boy knows what he wants in terms of like determination. He really loved the game. He loved to train. He loved to play. He always put in some extra minutes on the field in terms of doing individual training. He was always the first guy on the training ground. He was the last guy to leave. So I would say he was really humble. He had the determination, and he just loved to play football.
And obviously this is very, very important. Also difficult though, because he's still 15, but I just want to ask maybe any current, maybe even retired football player that he might resemble. He's just 15, obviously he's going to develop himself significantly, but as much as you can tell, who does he resemble to?
Oof, this is always hard.
Yeah.
You always get these kind of questions. And obviously I haven't seen him play live the last 3-4 years, so for me it's really hard to compare him to other players. But back then when I saw him play, for me he was one of the best players in that age category I've ever seen. And as I said, he was so skillful on the ball. He had a great vision, and I'm sure that he has developed this even more. But for me, it's really hard to compare him to big players because I haven't seen him playing in the last 3-4 years.
Obviously, that was a shot. No, it's all good. That was a shot in the dark, obviously. But just overall, because you obviously the picture that you just painted is obviously very positive. Obviously, you talked about his off the pitch, etc. But maybe to just round out the Isak part of our interview, what do you think his potential is? Where he can go to from here?
That's also a tough question. Once again, because I haven't seen him play in the last years. But when I saw him back then, comparing him to other boys, to other players in that age group, for me, he was absolutely the best. And if he keeps, keeping that developing like progress, for me, he's an amazing talent. And obviously, being talented is not enough. You need to have the character to drive through the hard times of being a professional football player. But my picture of Isak back then was that he really has the character, he really has the mentality to be a successful football player.
He is playing currently with the under-19 team as a 15-year-old, and the picture that he, the impression that he gave us, the football fans in Turkey, has been basically very positive as well, that he was not having any lack of, let's say, courage on the pitch. He was not hesitating to be active on the ball. His on the pitch communication with his teammates, technique, everything has been very positive so far. And everything you just shared is obviously only giving us a positive picture for the future of Isak as well. So thank you so much already for the Isak part of our interview. And since we have you here, we're also a bit curious about how everything is going regarding scouting, first team scouting as well, considering Hammarby. So the first question is just this. Obviously, as Turkish people, we love to ask about Turkey and Turkish players. Do you follow the Turkish football, the league, maybe any Turkish players that you follow or you like? Can you share a bit from that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, Turkish football is obviously a great league. You have some great clubs. I wouldn't say that I'm following Turkish football like the first league in general. Obviously, I'm more into players. So, and obviously, we recently signed a big name in Swedish football from Kashimpasa in Lord Sadiku. For us, amazing player, really good recruitment for Hammarby. So we are so happy to have Lauret at Hammarby, and I also understood that he has been, the team captain for Kaşimpasa for many years, and obviously he's a big name in Turkish football.
Yeah, he's a well-known player from outside of these four major teams in Turkey. I just want to get there too, but I'm very happy that you already mentioned his name. What about any maybe younger players, maybe from the Turkish national team, because we have obviously very promising upcoming young players, obviously all around Europe as well. Like Isak being born in Sweden, we have a lot of players from Germany, France as well, but also decent center backs, right? A lot of defenders, Turkish defenders, are very, very popular nowadays in European football. Can you maybe share any opinions on these very well-known players as well on Turkish football?
I mean, first of all, the players that I'm looking at is obviously players that could be a possible transfer for Hammarby.
Of course.
And saying that is for me, it's more like I'm trying to find player. Obviously, we can't buy the best player of Fenerbahce or the best player of Besiktas. So we're trying to find players like on a lower level. Maybe from smaller countries or even big countries, but it needs to be like smaller teams. And obviously, I'm aware that Turkey has been producing a lot of good central defenders back in the years. But right now, I'm sure that all the Turkish center backs playing in Europe, they're too good for Hammarby.
They have grown a lot, especially the players who have been already transferred to Europe in very young age, developing themselves in Italy, Germany, England as well.
Big countries and big clubs. So I mean, that's great, and I really hope that you can keep on going, producing even better center backs in the future.
Yeah, we hope so too. And obviously, considering the transfer, maybe it's not the right term to use, the transfer criteria of Hammarby, but in general, as the head of scouting of a professional football club in Sweden, of Hammarby, of a bigger club, what would you say you personally and as a club pay attention to? Maybe not criteria necessarily, but can you maybe paint an overall picture of this scouting process?
Yeah, sure. I will try to explain it as good as I can. Obviously, we have this squad structure that we are working with. You need to have to be becoming a successful football team. We're trying to build the squad in different categories. We're talking about high impact players. That's one category, high impact players. And when we're talking about high impact players, the age isn't actually important. The quality is. It needs to be for us pure quality with Swedish standards, of course. And they can cost a lot of money. That's not a problem. We can put a lot of money on these players. So that's the first category. The second category is the squad players, which is probably the most important one, because finding high impact players or key players, it's kind of easy, but finding the right squad players, with the right character, the right mentality, it's crucial. It's really, really important. That's the second category. The third category is the young impact players, and that's the category that probably is taking most of my time, because those are the players that we're trying to bring in with the goal or with the ambition to sell them, to sell them on, and obviously they need to be. The age is important, because obviously when we are selling player, basically it's the younger players that will go for a lot of money. So we're trying to find the right type of young players with different qualities, but always with the right characters, and also that we have the same ambition. Like if you're doing a good job in Hammarby, if your head is, if you're focused, we definitely have the record of selling young players to bigger European clubs.
Yeah.
So that's Sorry.
No, go ahead. No, please.
The fourth category and the last one is actually young potential, and that's basically players from our own academy. Should be Swedish player from their own academy that we're trying to develop so they can become first team players. And I know that our academy is doing a great job with producing even more and even better players in the future. So we're trying to find a good balance with these four categories to build a successful team, obviously on the pitch. But for being a Swedish club, we also need to build the financial stability in the club. And you can only do that by either selling players, that's the first option, and the second option is to compete in the European competitions. That's where I mean, in terms of becoming a good football team, you obviously need to win games, and to be able to win games, you need to have good players on the pitch. So that's obviously really important. But it's also for us important to find the balance between winning games and playing younger players, because the younger players are the players that you actually can sell. So we're trying to find a balance when we're building the squad, so we actually can choose like which games can we play a little bit younger players to give them some playing time, and obviously when we're playing like the Stockholm derbies or the big games, we need to put a team on the pitch with the goal to win the game. So that's kind of the balance we're trying to have when we're building the squad out of these four categories.
Yeah, that is actually very insightful. And on regarding 2 points, I would like to ask questions, if you don't mind. The first question is, it is very difficult for a lot of people who have the ambition to maybe become a football scout, a professional football scout, especially that is a very common thing in Turkey, to understand the other process, which is not understanding the football player, but the from the second group you mentioned, is the person determined? Is he a good person? The other side of it, the off the pitch side of it. As a football scout, how do you approach that specifically? What kind of processes do you have there?
I think it's a really good question, because it's so important. It's not only about seeing a player, seeing his qualities. It's more than that. So of course, in the best of worlds, if you have the possibility to have a meeting with the player, to be able to talk to the player and get an impression about what kind of character is this, background check, and also obviously I have been doing this for a lot of years, so you got like a feeling in your stomach, like this is the right character, or maybe this is not. And by having these kind of personal meetings, I think it's really important to have them, because it could be crucial if you should sign the player or not.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we are our level of scouting is never going to be on the same level as a professional football club. But what I personally have been doing is, I would like to hear if this is a good thing or not. But you said, you have a gut feeling. The gut feeling necessarily, it might come, I assume, from the fact that when you see him on the pitch, if he maybe talks to the referee all the time, or if he is, let's say, if he is in a challenge, he falls down, he doesn't get up too quickly, or these kind of things, that might personally give me some sort of a feeling, not an idea, but a feeling, maybe there might be something wrong with that person. Is this a good way to evaluate? Yeah.
You are right. I totally agree. And obviously sometimes in terms of like, talking to the referee and, being in the referee's face, it could also be that this team or Hammarby in this case, we need that kind of character. We need that type of player. We don't want a player who's always, always correct, always right, always doing the right. Sometimes you need to have those kind of players that actually can, lift the team up, put some temperature on the pitch. So, I mean, that's also that's why it's so important to be aware of this structure of how to build the team. What kind of character do we need? Do we need leadership? Do we need more potential? Do we need a center back who is good in the air. No, he don't need to be that good in the air, but he needs to be really good on the ball. So you need to understand the way the club is working, and obviously when you're watching games, you can see those kind of characters in players, and some are good, maybe some are bad, and you have your feeling. But if you also have the possibility to have these personal talks with the player, you will always get some more and interesting information that you need to at least evaluate.
Yeah. And the other question I want to ask after you have shared these four categories is, we have in Turkey always a very big conversation regarding an age of a football player, specifically about young football player. It came to the realization of a lot of Turkish football fans that even 25-year-olds are considered in the press sometimes of young football players. As a professional football club, as a professional football scout, what age do you define as young, or until what age can you consider a football player young?
Wow, that's also a hard one.
Yeah.
Obviously, you have in Sweden the academy age stops at 19, so that's at least like one mark to use, and then we have this under 21 league where teams can play. It's like a reserve league basically. So that could also be like an age to talk about in terms of young players. I mean, for me, when we're talking about younger players, we're probably talking about players under 21. Yeah. I would maybe say that's my answer on okay. A good question, but also hard to like. Okay, so 22 is not young. Yeah, of course it could be, but I would probably draw my line at 21.
21. All right. Thank you for clarifying, because that's been a very important topic of conversation in Turkey for a very long time. So it's always good to hear.
Hope you will solve it.
Yeah, I hope so too. Obviously, there are different opinions on that, and we like to talk about it. But
there's no right and wrong.
Of course not. And the last question I would like to ask you is this new current trend in scouting world. We have seen not so frequently, but here and there, the position-based scouting. We have seen clubs looking for a defender scout, or a center back scout, or a striker scout. What is your take on that? What is your opinion?
I mean, it sounds interesting. Obviously, we at Hammarby don't have the resources to have like too many scouts doing that kind of specific work. But I mean, in the future, I'm quite sure that you will need to have like a good, like a specific eye of how to choose players in different positions. For me, it's more like obviously the players that I have been scouting and signed for Hammarby, we have been really successful in center backs. I was a center back myself when I played. So maybe I have like a better eye for finding center backs than wingers or strikers. But so I mean, it could be for the future that you know, at least the bigger clubs will have the resources to be more specific in their scouting out of the qualities that they're looking for in different positions.
Yeah. Mr. Hjelmberg, I'm very thankful that you have accepted our interview. You took your time, you answered all of these questions on Isak as well as the scouting processes. I would like to also say that all of the insights that you have given are very important to the upcoming generation of football scouts, especially in Turkey, as we are very into this scouting, scouting as a topic. As a job, even people are very, very into it. So maybe at the very last question would be, if you have any tips for any young people who would like to maybe one day become a professional football scout.
Obviously, you need to have like the passion for it, right? And I mean, that's probably that's not a problem for most of the guys. I think you need to watch a lot of football. I think you need to talk a lot of football. Listen to people with bigger experience, and then obviously to be able to work as a professional scout, I think also that you need to have like the right contacts. That's for me. Has been really important. Not only that I have a good eye, I also need to have good contacts to find the right place, to find the right job. You know, your network around you. So don't hesitate to meet people, talk to people, integrate with people. That would be my tip.
Perfect. Thank you so much again. I'm very glad to have this conversation with you. And good luck. Best of luck to Hammarby as well. And hopefully maybe talk to you in the future.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Bizi izleyen herkese teşekkürler. Videoyu beğenmeyi, kanalımıza abone olmayı unutmayın. Görüşmek üzere. Hoşça kalın.